It's like, don't mind me. I'm just here for the comments.
Hello and welcome to the Part-Time Gamers, the gaming podcast for people with full-time lives. I'm Cernex, clocking in with my good friend, That One Weirdo.
Just remember, folks, April is Procrastination Awareness Month.
And our guest, TVsTravis. Thanks for joining us again.
I will remember to procrastinate sometime next month.
Yeah. An actual, genuine example of procrastination. I have an alert set on my calendar to finish show notes Saturday night. I literally finished them like an hour ago.
This is the way.
Yes. This is.
I'll do something about procrastination. You just wait and see.
All of these are accurate statements and completely appropriate for everyone involved.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Trying not to procrastinate on this, let's go ahead and get into our icebreaker.
Nice of you to drop by.
Never heard that one before.
All right. I thought this was going to be appropriate to our game that we're going to be talking about today, and I think it'd be actually kind of an interesting thing to discuss. Would you rather be a secret agent, similar to like James Bond, or would you rather be a hacker?
Well, I mean, considering James Bond is probably the worst secret agent in the history of secret agents because he uses his name, whether it's a code name or not, he tells everyone his name.
Yeah.
He drives flashy cars, all of that kind of stuff. I'm going to go with hacker because there seems to be less people shooting at hackers.
That is true.
Typically.
Oh, okay. Well, if the James Bond part of it is an issue, just like someone that you consider like an actual secret agent, like more typical secret agent, I guess.
I still think hacker because it requires less cardio.
That is also true. Yeah.
Yes.
But it also involves a lot less women, which is a potential option as well. I don't know. It's just like,
I mean, you still got a laptop as a hacker.
We'll just leave it at that.
That's true. That's true.
But, I don't know. It basically, it comes down to just would you rather focus on your charisma and manipulating people directly through that, or would you rather avoid people and manipulate, the things around them through the internet? And by incorporating the statement, not interacting with people, definitely I'd be a hacker.
See, when you put it that way, I didn't break it down like that. And being a fan of James Bond films, I mean, Travis brings up a good point. It's like, you're a secret agent. I'm like, to whom? Somebody been hiding under a rock? His cars and him being an assassin and, whatever diseases he might be spreading and unclaimed children. That's pretty well known.
That never clicked to me until I was talking to a friend of mine about the Bourne movies. And he was a huge fan of the Jason Bourne novels. And he said that the main issue I had with it is Matt Damon's too good looking. And he's too recognizable.
Yeah.
And you want your secret agent to be somebody who can just blend in and disappear.
So if on that note, even though I wouldn't prefer to be a secret agent, apparently I would be really good at it because I have literally hidden in plain sight in front of people. It's like, there's this one story I have there was two of my friends to my left, one to my right, and someone, one of my friends standing across from us. And he literally goes through each of the faces in front of him and goes, "Where's Sean?" And it's like, I'm not hiding in, there's two people to my side, one to my other side. I'm not hiding behind anyone, but somehow I was just not there.
And that's the other part of it. I'm too tall to be an agent. I'm too tall to be a pilot, like a fighter pilot, and I'm too tall to be a secret agent. So, because I'm too easy to spot. I'm usually a half a head or more taller than everybody. It's a pain.
And another
Good way
thing,
to look at it.
Another thing I thought was funny was there was actually a Trevor Noah comedy skit on Netflix where they were talking, one of his bits was how they were talking about Idris Elba being the next James Bond.
Oh, right.
And he was going through the different things. Like Idris Elba would be fantastic as acting as James Bond, but realistically, he would be terrible because he's like he goes to any like European country, is like, where's James Bond? There he is. He's the one black guy in the crowd. And it's like you got to think about the practicality, I guess. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. I'll go with Hacker.
Much, yeah.
I mean, there's more pizza rolls with Hacker too.
That is a good motivator.
Like you got to stay in shape as like an agent.
Yeah.
And it's like, I got to be fit. And then there's me, and it's like, oh, Krispy Kremes with Kit Kat on top. That's a thing. Load me up.
Plus, like the dress code is easier, right? I can do hacking in just about anything.
I'm literally wearing pajama pants right now.
I don't have to go get a tux. I don't have to get fitted for shoes.
A toga and a Pikachu hoodie is all I need. Easy stuff.
Yep. Just have my bear onesie and a cup of coffee. I'm good to go.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, that's I realize how redundant of a question this was considering the people that I was talking to. So yeah, Hacker, definitely. Oh, especially with the like not having to interact directly with people. Yeah, I'd prefer that.
But not like the movie, not like the 1995 Hackers. That's a little all over the place.
Yeah. Although
great soundtrack.
Yeah.
Oh, are we going to throw shade on Hackers? I might.
Why
don't
with Hackers?
Don't get me going. Don't get me going because I love that movie.
That was not me. That was Theo. That
I did too. But you look at some of that stuff and you're like, oh yeah, oh.
It's sure, that's that. Well, although one thing that they did kind of get right was the beginning part of it, where because a lot of
social engineering.
Thing, yeah, that's the thing is a lot of hacking is less about like overcoming firewalls and stuff like that through like directly attacking it, and more so just like, hey, can I call this guy and somehow con him into getting his password? Exactly.
The easiest way to hack into a system is get somebody to tell you the password.
Yeah. Which I think is a little bit more difficult to do nowadays, but like back when the internet was a little bit newer and people didn't know any better, it was a lot easier. But yeah.
I don't want to go too much off on a tangent on it, but my thing with hackers is the hackers isn't accurate. That's like saying, well, Star Wars isn't accurate because there's no sound in space. But it was much more compelling to have a movie with battles in space where you could hear things going on and things exploding than to just have 5-minute shots of silence and things moving around. And they had a lot of good technical stuff in Hackers. They just wrapped it up in a very flashy 90s bow to make it more interesting visually. But there's a lot of like underlying stuff that they actually talk to hackers about, which I always thought was fascinating. Yeah. I defend that movie a lot, so I was as soon as it's spoken, like just the hackles go up, and it's like, all right, I'm going into Super Saiyan mode.
Oh no, I still enjoy that movie very much. I visit it at least once a year, and that soundtrack, especially when it came out, like me and my friends,
so
like
good.
that was just ear honey. It was so good. It still is. It still has one of my favorite songs of all time, Protection from Massive Attack. But it is literally like such a good soundtrack. The movie's a good time. I always just had a little bit like, oh, so Fisher Stevens is the bad guy, huh? The guy who helped build Johnny Five with Steve Guttenberg. Yeah. Like, is that like his evil twin or something?
Yeah, he's not the most imposing villain ever, but I'll give it a pass. They put Penn Jillette in the movie, so
yeah, true.
They did, absolutely.
But it also depends on. It's like he's not physically imposing, but he could be very imposing online.
Yes,
in the domain that actually matters to the movie. But anyway,
yes,
yeah.
This is super cool.
I will admit that movie is actually pretty fun. I haven't watched it in years though, but from what I remember, it's like there's some parts that are just like kind of weird, like when they're in the phone booths and for whatever reason they're just like stylistically rotating. And it's like, okay, that's we'll just go with that.
And it's the old school Lazy Susan, so the camera's not rotating; they are, and you're like, all right.
Yeah. I mean, again, stylistic choices. It's like the interior of the Gibson. They wanted to mimic somewhat like city blocks, so they built that computer to look like that. But I love that they did all that practical. Yeah, and they had those physical things and did motion control camera through it all, and it looks really cool. And you remember it. So
yeah. So, anyways, hackers, all of us, we choose that.
Hacker.
All right, let's go ahead and get into our water cooler talk.
You get that thing I sent you?
I was waiting for that one.
It's like clockwork.
Yep. So, Travis, did you have an article that you wanted to discuss?
I did not.
Okay.
I
All right,
apologize.
that kind of works out for me because there's this has actually been a pretty news heavy week for in video games. So I wanted to discuss a couple kind of high points before we get into the articles we've chosen. End on some better notes. But like last week we mentioned the whole fiasco with the PSN network linking for Helldivers 2. And that whole situation is just kind of mind-boggling how quickly it both started, happened, and ended. Because I think they made the announcement, I think like Thursday afternoon or so, that they were going to be linking Steam. In order to continue playing Helldivers, you had to link your Steam account to a PSN account. And in most cases, stuff like that, no problem. This literally did not affect me at all. I have a PSN account already, and my Steam was already previously linked to it. So would not have affected me at all. The biggest uproar, though, was the fact that this was there was two elements. One, that this was delayed for like 4 months. This was something that was supposed to be done when the game was launched that no one was told about, other than there's like, if you look at the Steam page, there's a little thing that says requires third-party account or whatnot. That's the only indicator that they were doing this. They delayed it because of technical issues, because Helldivers was having a bunch of server issues at the beginning with the launch. So they delayed it 4 months. They finally made this announcement, and everyone's like, wait, where is this coming from? So that's part of it. But I think the biggest aspect of it was there was 177 countries in the world who have access to Steam, who potentially have bought Helldivers on Steam, who would then not have access to it because those countries do not have access to PSN. So you would either the options were either lose access to the game that you bought, or break TOS on PSN and make an account in a different country.
Yeah.
Those were the two options at the time. So big uproar, in that last aspect, I think rightfully so, because like who in PlayStation just didn't do the research and say, hey, Steam is in all these countries that we don't have a PSN network in. I don't think we should sell this game in those countries. And they did anyway, and it's like literally the definition of corporate greed, because they knew they had this plan from the start. They knew that these people weren't going to have access to the game after that amount of time.
And that's the thing that's really bad about it, right? Like, it's bad enough that you have this requirement. It's bad enough that like you don't launch with it for whatever reason, whatever reason they want to give. Fine, I don't care. But to know that you're going to cut access off to a bunch of people, but you just sell it anyway. Yeah. Like it's either gross incompetence or greed, or some combination of the two.
Yeah.
And that's what really bugged me.
Yeah. And the fact that it all basically came down to like, why do we need a PSN account linked anyway? I mean, it's been running fine for 4 months. Their supposed reasons was security, which is bull because PSN gets hacked like every other year. And then like to report, to do like player reports or whatever against bad apples, which, whatever. This is like literally the least toxic community that I've been a part of, because everyone's working together. There is no competitiveness to it and everything. It's all everyone working towards the same goal. So that happened over that last weekend. We mentioned it briefly on the last episode. By Monday, like literally midnight Monday, which would have been literally, well, actually we recorded Saturday last week, but anyway, like Monday morning, midnight, PlayStation releases a statement saying that they are not going to go through with it, that they're completely backtracking on the whole thing, and no longer requiring a PSN network account to be linked to Steam account for Helldivers 2. And so like all of the negative reports and everything, or like the negative reviews, all of the uproar worked. PlayStation tried to spin it in some way that's like somehow that's like we're new to the PC market, so we don't know like all this stuff. It's like, dude, just it's basic math. Just like look at the countries that you have a PSN network. Look at the countries that have access to Steam. Look at the difference.
No, this whole situation is the definition of ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah.
And it bit them hard.
Yeah.
As well it should have.
Yeah.
And companies are okay with that now. That's what's even more interesting. Like, brand actions used to kind of mean something, and now corporations become as big as they are, it's like, well, where else are you going to go?
Yeah.
They
right.
Really
it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
they really have no shame.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, if for a portion of time, and actually, I saw a report earlier that it was like so during that period of time as well. They actually removed Helldivers 2 from Steam to 177 countries that didn't have access to PSN. Which is, if they knew that this was coming, they shouldn't have sold it in those countries anyways. But they later, got rid of them on the Steam store. And there was actually an article I saw earlier that confirmed it was PlayStation that did it, not Steam. So there was a little bit of debate behind that. Whether it was like Steam delisting it because they didn't want to deal with the refunds and stuff like that, or if it was PlayStation who did it. It was PlayStation that did that. And the thing is, that's most irritating is even if they doubled down and they went ahead with it, PlayStation probably still would have made money off of all of this, even with the reduced audience, because they're getting their information. I mean, that's why they want to do it, is they just want interaction in their ecosystem, get your information and sell that to advertisers. And they would have made bank on that, even with the vastly reduced audience. The people that I felt the most sorry for in this whole situation was Arrowhead, because they have no control over this. They have no control over where their game is sold because it's published by PlayStation. And the only way they make money is by selling the game.
Yeah.
So they were the ones that were going to get most screwed out of this whole deal.
And they get a black eye out of it too, because it's guilty by association.
Yeah. Although the CEO of Arrowhead has been very forthright with saying it's like, yeah, I'm at fault with this too. I didn't make it clear that this was going to happen. He was trying to fight against Sony, saying, hey, you need to stop this so that we can make sure that this game gets sold places. I'm very glad at the result that Sony did finally back out of it. And a lot of people who left negative reviews on Steam have gone back and reversed it and made it positive again. It went from overwhelmingly positive all the way down to mostly negative. In a span of like 2 days.
Yikes.
Because there were people like, that's another thing that there was a community manager on their Discord channel that said, if you're upset about this, post a negative review, order a refund, everything like that. And he was serious about it. So people did that, brought the game down on Steam, ordered refunds, everything. And it made an impact. And then once the Sony backed out, a lot of them went back, and it's already back up to mostly positive for its overall rating, which is great. Unfortunately, there was also a report that community manager was let go. Because apparently asking your player base to leave negative reviews and order refunds is kind of frowned upon, regardless of the situation. So he was let go, but he doesn't regret what he did. He still kind of stands behind it, which I kind of do as well. And he said that it's like he was, he's not surprised by the whole situation. But so that was last weekend. In the span of like literally about 4 days, all that went down. The other big kind of notable thing was Microsoft closed down I think it was 4 or 5 different studios. The more notable of which, one was, I don't remember if it was Arcane Austin, I think. I think Arcane Lion is the one that was still active. I think it was Arcane Austin, which made the wonderful and notable game Redfall, which if you haven't played it, you are in the majority. So that one's not too surprising. But the one that is surprising is they closed down Tango Gameworks, which are the developers of Hi-Fi Rush, which by all accounts was a very successful game. It won awards. You know, it was very notable when it dropped because I think it dropped just randomly during one of the Games Awards. It's like, hey, this is available now. Go play it. And that was surprising. And makes a bunch of people question Microsoft. It's like, okay, if this award-winning successful game is not enough to keep the studio open, what are you looking for?
Right.
So, and then there was apparently an interview with one of the higher ups at Microsoft that I didn't actually I didn't listen to what she was saying, but basically, like from the articles I read about it, it's like she spent like over a minute basically saying nothing, and about the whole situation. So it's just ultimately the only things I can really say about either of those two situations is corporate going to corporate, and not to be surprised, but not necessarily to accept it either.
Yeah, I mean, the hope is that they would learn from stuff like this, but the realistic, cynical side of me knows that won't happen, and so we just have to maybe hope that it happens less frequently. But yeah, no, these things happen and will continue to happen because corporations are just big and they don't care.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's one of the reasons why I'm leaning more towards independent studios, because they aren't beholden to board members or investors and stuff like that. They're able to be more flexible with what they do, and they're less inclined, or they're less likely to get smashed down by someone higher up on the chain. But anyway,
and it's tough. It's such a balance to walk because it takes money to put these things out and to get these things out there. It's independent film getting made and nobody's seeing it because you can't get a distribution deal because no studio will buy it, or a smaller studio buys it, shelves it, and then nobody sees your movie. You need there's those layers to it, and it's tough. Like Larian had the financial backing to be able to pull that off, but they effectively did an independent style release. They controlled all of it. Yeah. But for Baldur's Gate, but it made, it's a AAA level type game.
Yeah.
That is the exception, not the rule. It would be much better if that were the rule. If companies could just, it's easier to do now than it was, but it's still tough.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And it all comes down to the money aspect, which again, I hate money. It's just,
indeed.
Can we get to like the Star Trek Utopia type, just where it's like, I'd prefer
or
that.
Fallout and just trade bottle caps.
And if we were doing that, well, if they do plastic bottle caps, I have literally an entire bin full of bottles just to my left.
We've got a few. It's awesome.
All right, but
yeah, I would love to not have to deal with money.
Yeah,
it would make things a lot easier.
Yeah,
amen.
But I just wanted to touch on those topics because I know those were kind of big topics of the week, even though they're not related to the articles that we brought. But now let's go ahead and get to the articles we brought. Theo, let's go ahead and start with yours.
Oh boy,
basically talking about more money.
Greed. Yes. Oh, and let's be clear, like. What we're with this particular article, what we're going to talk about is really nothing new. And it just reminds us they're just going to get more shameless, and they're going to keep wanting more, and they're going to keep taking more. And Sean, I think you'd be a little appreciative of this. This doesn't directly have to do with Ubisoft, but it is Ubisoft adjacent situation.
Yeah.
So the fine folks at EA Sports or EA Games, I always say EA Sports. I'm just so used to that.
I mean, that
they,
what that does is that dates us, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yes. And, they, like most companies, they're going to find a way to make money. And they're actually looking at something that had been tried once and was about as successful as a fart in church. And when you get a load of this, all you're going to say is crappy ads. It's in the game. EA Sports is looking to have ads. Yeah, I said it, ads in their AAA games, especially focusing on Star Wars games. And let's keep in mind here that it's a $70 plus game.
Yeah.
Certain deluxe editions are north of 130 going into 150. And you have to sit through ads for something you paid for. And it's like, well, the ad worked, right? Like, how much do you need to bang me over the head with this stuff? And, as always, this is one of those, well, we're going to try this. They try to be real cutesy about it. Like, we're going to give this a shot. And it's like, no, we hate it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if we want the game, we have to go through them, but we hate them too. So the Ubisoft side of this was actually tested with the most recent Assassin's Creed game. And this was something that they threw out there right in the middle of gameplay and went, bang, you want to see an ad? And gamers went, bang, you want to see me ask for a refund? So Ubisoft actually did a little smooth over mood and was like, oh, yeah, it happened by accident. And, oh, it's just, who put this ad here? Oh, bad person. So they tried to play it off. They tried to be kind of smooth it over, and nobody bought it.
Yeah.
It was like the RoboCop line. I'd buy that for $1. And now fast forward to EA, who is one of those companies I haven't been fond of since ever, maybe. And they are working another angle as far as putting ads in games that you paid for. Now, one, this really shouldn't be a surprise. I just step back and I just look at the gall. Like, you guys think this is what your fan base wants. Like, we get hit on the head with enough ads as it is from their corporate masters, whoever owns a lot of those companies. And in turn, it's like, so let me get this straight. I'm right in the middle of this awesome lightsaber move, and you're going to stop to tell me that there's a new Mountain Dew flavor exclusive only to Applebee's, and I should pause my game and go there now. Do I have that? So it's meeting with a lot of forcefulness. People don't like it. It's probably still going to happen.
This quote, reading this quote makes my eye twitch. As we think about the many, many billions of hours spent both playing, creating, watching, connecting, and where much of that engagement happens to be on the bounds of traditional game experience, our expectation is that advertising has an opportunity to be a meaningful driver for growth for us. Translation, y'all are playing our games and not getting ads, and we need to make some more money.
Yep.
So,
that is a literal translation.
Completely out of touch, and there needs to be somebody in the room on these earning calls with these CEOs that just has a rolled up newspaper, and when they start saying stuff like that, just hit them in the nose and say, no, stop.
I was basically thinking
I am available for a reasonable rate for that job. Just saying.
There you go.
I mean, there's a whole industry for that, but okay, we don't need to discuss that on the show. But it's just, again, there is a place for everything, but there also needs to be checks and balances to it. I can understand, like, corporate going to corporate, their whole job is to make money ultimately, but there are significantly more effective ways of doing that. Like, I don't know, making good games. That's a good starting point.
That's weird, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, this article does mention that, ads have existed in games for a long time whenever you see product placement. And product placement ads, if they're within the context of a thing, don't bother me, ever. Like, Alan Wake having batteries that you've got to collect to run the flashlight that you're playing, and if they happen to be Duracell batteries, I don't care. I do not care about that at all. Like, that's fine. Or, I'm thinking of a game that exists inside of a city and you're seeing billboards or ads on stuff within that. That makes sense contextually. But throwing ads in the middle of a Star Wars game, how are you going to do that? You're not, is the
Yeah.
thing. You're not going to pull that off because it's a fictional universe that doesn't exist
Yeah.
in ours.
But they'll try to find a way. I think that's the worst part. Like they have,
Oh, sure.
once again, they have no shame. Like there's that
No,
company now that makes that blue milk, and I've seen it, and I won't try it because my first question is, hey, did this come from a blue cow? You're full of it. And at the end of the day, hey, 6% of all Americans think chocolate milk comes from brown cows. I believe that is an accurate statistic. And even if it's not, it sure as hell sounds accurate. But having said that, they will find a way to kind of piece this stuff together. And it's so unfortunate because a couple things. One, I mean, we know ad people. Like, I got to be honest. I've actually known people who've worked in advertising, and one in particular, and he's a friend, and I'm not going after ad people, but I will say this. He literally has said that it's the dog with the bone. Like, he was like, if there's a way to put, a logo of some kind on anything, and get somebody to pay for it, we would do that. It's like Kiss when they created the coffin. It's like people are like, that's shameless. I'm like, yeah, and it's $5,000, and they sold out of them because they only made so many. So shame goes both ways.
Yeah.
And two, it really takes people out of the game. And there used to be a pure time of gaming where you didn't have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
You bought like GamePro or Nintendo Power, and that's where you found your ads in a magazine, not kind of blasted all over your face like Nolan Sorrento from Ready Player One. It's like, well, we'll take up 80% of their field of vision.
I was literally going to mention that. That's what all this reminded me of.
Yeah, it's just shame, and it's just money grubbing, and it's just so unfortunate because for so many gamers, it kind of goes back to the Helldiver thing we just spoke of, where it's like you can't win for losing because to play the game, you got to go through them in some way, shape, or form. So they're going to get you by the short curlies no matter how you slice it.
Yeah.
And it's the problem of like the profits have to keep increasing. So they have to keep finding new ways to bring in money because just paying for the game, that's not enough anymore.
Yeah.
Because you can't be profitable. You have to be increasingly profitable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or you're not a good business, which is
watch the line.
Stupid.
Yeah. And you know what? Just throw random ads in anything. Like right now,
Sure.
Hey, folks, did you know that you're 70% water?
We're going to have technically an ad for Patreon later. Don't ruin it. Anyway.
That's my ad. I'll tell you later. It's a good one.
All right. But heading over to my article, which is a little bit more uplifting. It's something I'm actually legitimately excited about. Everyone knows I'm a big fan of the original Hades. Hades 2, which has been in development for a while already, was listed on Steam for quite a while. They went into early access this past week. And according to this article, what they said about it, there's already at least as much content in the early access of Hades 2 as was in the full release of the original Hades. And that's still not all the content they're going to release for it. So it's Hades impressive. 2, Hades 2 is already more than the original Hades. I'm really excited about that. I'm really looking forward to playing it. I saw Bo Schwartz play a little bit of the early access, and it's Hades-ass Hades. So it has some more mechanics to it and stuff. So it's not exactly the same, but it definitely has the same feel with just a little bit more mechanics to it. So basically, if you like the original Hades, you're going to love this. If you didn't like the original Hades, there's no reason to get this because it's more of the similar gameplay. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what kind of crazy content they get into this with this one. Again, because it's already so big, already bigger than the original Hades.
Nice.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
At some point, I should play Hades.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean,
I've heard really good things, and everything I've seen of it, it's like everything else, finding time. I keep putting in requisitions for 36-hour days, and they keep getting ignored.
Yeah,
because they make sense. That's why nobody would do that.
Yeah. I'm just gonna keep doing it though. At some point we will do this.
But yeah, like that we talked about Hades on the show. I mean, for the part-time gamer aspect of it, it's actually pretty good because you can do a run in relatively short amount of time. But yeah, it's just you never want to do just one run of Hades. You always just like I got to do it again. I got to get further. I got to try this more. Oh, got to try to make this build work. All that jazz.
That's how to get you.
It makes me want to play Hades again already. It really is such a good game. All right. Before we get back to work, I'd like to mention our Patreon, patreon.com/PTGcast. If you like what you're hearing and like to help us out with our paychecks each month, you can go there, drop us $1, $5, $10. It all helps us out, and we really do appreciate it. It's patreon.com/PTGcast. And with that, let's go ahead and get back to work.
Morning break is over. Morning break is over.
See, September, I fixed the chatbot in our chat, okay? So exclamation point Patreon in our chat brings up the link for our Patreon page. All right.
Nice.
Thanks for testing that. I'm actually glad it still works. All right. So this week, one of the reasons why I wanted to bring Travis onto the show this week, we're going to be talking about Operation Tango, which I think is kind of funny because I remember probably 2 years ago or something like that, you were playing this with Amy Frost, who is someone else I've been trying to get onto the show, who is just eternally busy. So I'm very glad you were able to join us. So developed and published by Clever Plays. It is currently $19.99 on Xbox and PlayStation and Windows via Epic and Steam. And one thing I really appreciate about this, that a lot of co-op only games have been doing, is it does have a free friend pass available.
Yeah.
So only one of the two people needs to actually own the game, and then they can bring in the other person using this friend pass. So this is an asymmetrical co-op espionage game. And one player is an agent who is actually like physically present on site for whatever the mission is. The other player is a hacker. What's that?
And Simon Pegg. I said Tom Cruise and Simon Pegg.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. The other person is a hacker infiltrating and manipulating the networks. And like last week we were talking about It Takes Two, and one thing that is very different between that and this game is you can't see each other's screens at all. And in It Takes Two, you have a split screen type element where you can see what each player is doing. In this one, they're completely different screens entirely. Which is you have to rely on that voice communication to relay the information. And I watched a little bit of gameplay footage of like the first two missions. The amount of information and kinds of information you need to try to give each other can vary greatly from just like, oh, I need this like 4-digit access code. It's like, oh, it's right here. I can, and that's it. To like, okay, I need you to describe what orientation these lines are on these squares. And, and then like try to accurately put them together while also hitting A and D to try to keep your meter in the middle so you can continue. Like some of the mechanics are just like, okay, well, let's just throw an encyclopedia at you. But a lot of it boils down to one person has the information that the other person needs. Hence the asymmetrical aspect of it. So tell us a little about your experience with this game, Travis, since you're the person here that actually played the game.
So I had played It Takes Two with Amy prior to playing this one. So it was a very different experience because exactly what you were just talking about, the asymmetrical nature and the fact that you have to rely on your communication to get through it, I thought was a really fun, at times incredibly frustrating aspect of the game. Because you get better at that as you go. You start to figure out what it takes to explain to the person that you're playing with how to get through these puzzles and what to do. And it was such a fun concept for a game. So it was a blast. I had a ton of fun playing it, and it wasn't super long either. So it was an easy one to just kind of casually pick up, play. I think we may have played it over like a couple of streams. and that was it. And it was perfect for that. And at $20 for only one person to have to buy it.
Yeah.
And that's clever to do too, because then, we do that, and maybe then I'll buy it and have somebody else want to play it, and I'll go through it again, but play the other side of it. And this time instead I'll be the hacker and get to play from that aspect of it as well. So there's some replayability to it. Yeah, I thought it was a cool idea, and I love the style. The art style on it was really, really fun. It was great.
Yeah, I mean that, like, if there's any kind of downside that I've seen to this game, it is that it does have limited replayability, because the missions themselves are the same, as you go through. I trying to remember if they added some kind of like randomized play to it or not. I didn't do that research beforehand, but for like the basic gameplay of it, you're going through the same missions in sequence.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a little bit of a limited replayability to it, because then it's like, okay, the puzzles are going to be the same. There might be a little bit of variation. Like, I remember there was one puzzle where it's like the agent had to go to a terminal and relay a color and a number to the hacker so that they could input that into the network and hack through that firewall. And like that one, it's a different number each time, but it's the same colors, and it increases in difficulty. It's the same mechanic. So there's a little bit of variation that way, but I think the biggest way to do the replayability is, like you said, once you play through as one side, go again and play as the other side, and potentially with a different person. So then again, like you were mentioning, it is that aspect of relaying that information. And two people communicate very differently depending on who they're talking to. So like, if I was playing sorry, go ahead.
You learn how well you communicate or how poorly you can communicate with somebody too, because when you're under the gun, when you've got the time aspect of it or whatever is going on, man, suddenly you forget how to speak or you forget how to comprehend what is being spoken to you. Yeah.
I mean, it does kind of remind me a little bit of Keep Talking, Nobody Explodes as well. Trying to communicate.
There's a little bit of that in there.
Yeah, like going through just like trying to describe the symbol in a way that the other people would easily recognize. Which, like, the gameplay that I was watching, the first one that I watched, these guys were just kind of dunderheads at times. It's like
might have been the same one I watched.
Yeah, it might have been. But yeah, like they were like, one guy was clearly communicating a symbol to the other guy, and granted, seeing both sides of it, it's like, oh yeah, it's this one. But he's describing it very accurately, and the guy is just like, I don't understand what you're saying. And it's like, and like they had to go through it a couple times before they finally got it. But I mean, and that's another kind of aspect I like about it, is like, it seems like the checkpoint system is very forgiving. It's like, because you probably will fail multiple times during a single mission.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
for sure.
And they lend the game towards that. It's like, okay, instead, like even with the 4 terminals, trying to open the vault and everything, if you get caught in the 3rd terminal, it doesn't make you restart the whole sequence over again. It just restarts from that same terminal.
This felt like it was well put together for casual gaming, and they priced it right. Like putting it at that $20 price point and only requiring one of the 2 people to own it. It tells me that they realize this is going to be a game. We're not going to get too ambitious with it, and it slots in perfect for that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, at that $20 price point, it is a relatively short game, which lends itself to the part-time gamer aspect as well. You can go in, do a mission like half an hour, get out, and keep on going that way. It does, like I said, it does kind of somewhat lack the replayability, but again, it's $20 that only one of the 2 people needs to pay for. So I think it's well priced for the experience you're going to get. And some of like I said, the variation in some of these mini games and challenges can get kind of ridiculous. Like what what was probably one of your favorite experiences with that, Travis? If you had to pick one.
I mean, there was a hacking one that had to deal with like going through a tunnel in cyberspace.
Yeah.
And I loved that because it was hard to figure out like what direction at the branches to go and then how to deal with whatever obstacles were coming. But that one was just a lot of fun. It was challenging without getting to the point of being too frustrating.
Yeah.
Which a lot of the puzzles had. That was the nice thing, is I never got super frustrated with anything.
Yeah.
Because that's easy to do in a puzzle game.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I do vaguely remember like one of them that I think I saw in your stream was the agent had to like descend down this elevator shaft, and but there are invisible lasers around, and like the hacker is able to use a filter on the cameras to see where the lasers are.
Yep.
So you have to try
that was
direct.
cool.
Yeah, you have to try to direct the agent like into where the gap is, so they can lower down and keep going and everything like that. There's one in the I saw in the first mission where the hacker had to get to an exit in this digital scape, and there's platforms kind of pre-placed there, and then the agent actually has just this top-down grid, and they have to actually place the platforms for the hacker to travel around. But there's obstacles that the hacker can see that the agent can't see, that adds a little bit of a time element to it, because if these like sentinels hit the path that the agent is trying to make, it deletes the path, and the agent can fall to their virtual death. Oh,
I'm remembering some of this stuff now as you talk about it.
Yeah.
And it was just these. I love these kinds of co-op games. Like It Takes Two for me is sort of the gold standard on those.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it was just fantastic. But this slot's pretty close. I mean, it wasn't that far behind.
Yeah.
For a lot of those reasons. So
yeah, I really like the aesthetic of it too. I like the stylization of the world and the characters and everything. I do think it's kind of funny that like when you're looking at the main artwork for the game, the woman is actually the agent is significantly shorter than the hacker, except for her hair makes up the extra foot in height. I'm amused by that. I just think that's funny. But I really, one of the things I really appreciate in games is mutual exclusivity. It's one of the reasons why I like D&D versus the storyteller systems, because eventually in like storyteller systems, there is no level cap, so eventually you can just kind of get everything. But in D&D, you only have 20 levels. You have to figure out what you're going to do with those 20 levels. And doing one thing restricts you from doing another thing. So I like that aspect in the games like this, too. It's like by choosing the hacker, you're restricting yourself from one part of the party or part of the puzzle, but allowing yourself to do another part of it. And there's a lot of variation between those, even the two halves of the same puzzle. But yeah, I do actually own this game. I think I picked it up on sale at some point on Steam. So this might actually be a game that I might try out with Jess, because we've been doing co-op games for past couple months. Although we missed like the last month and a half just because of life in general. But this would definitely be a great game for us to try out. I'd be willing to try that with her.
Yeah. I would recommend it. I think it is a really fun co-op game that doesn't take a huge commitment to get into.
Yeah.
That's the other nice part about it.
Yeah. All right.
Now, visually, it's a trip. It's very much to kind of piggyback with Travis. Like visually, it's very much like, I mean, you can't take your eyes off it. It's very much one of those games where the visual style is very specific to that game.
Especially as the hacker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I love so many of the spy tropes. There's there's what you expect of these things that you've seen in, Mission, Impossible and all that. where it does very much kind of put you right in that mode. I feel like this game, though, like I feel like this would be something that like a marriage counselor would use with like gamers, and it's like, well, if you guys can't make this work, you suckers aren't compatible. Like, just start queuing up the divorce papers now, because you really do have to. And there is fun. It's not so much like, oh, what's wrong with you? I told you exactly. No, I think a lot of it is because you have to play it with somebody who wants to be able to have fun with it, like knows kind of what they're getting into, but also it's like, hey, yeah, we're having a good time trying to figure this out together from kind of different perspectives. So that's part of the joy of it. But yeah, I feel like this would be like a test for like couples, and like so many of them would be like, you're out.
Yeah, it's like this game and building IKEA furniture are really the like relationship testers.
Oh, me and my ex-wife and IKEA furniture.
But,
so many instances of, the Kaspaken, that was cheaper, but the Fahugen was easier to put together and just $10 more.
yeah. So we are getting asked in the chat, like, how would we describe the art style? Like, what does it remind us of? And I'm trying to figure out.
I don't know what it reminds me of. It's very stylized.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very angular. It's like animation style.
Angular is good.
It's a unique riff, kind of on anime a little. Like it's a little hard to describe because it is so specific to the game. Like I've really never seen a whole lot like it. So it's very. I mean, that's what made it so kind of engaging. You're like, well, that's new, and that's what's so great. With those kind of games where you get pulled in, it's almost like a couple of styles kind of hybrid. Kind of put together, I guess is the best way to put it. That's a good question. To really describe it out.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
I did get. It's not exactly this, but I did get some very like Carmen Sandiego vibes from the game itself.
Yeah, I can see that.
So there's a little bit of that in there. Sort of. It's pretty. It is. It's very unique.
Yeah.
Yes.
But overall, I really want to try this game out at some point. It seems, it seems very
just
fun.
Looking at so much of the gameplay stuff that I kind of found, where it's very, once again, like you kind of have to know what you're getting into and be able to have kind of fun with it. And the ones I watched, one in particular, might have been the same one you did. It was like, how did these guys feed themselves, let alone play this game?
Yeah,
right.
I'm a little concerned about their well-being almost.
Yeah.
And then another one, and these two were cool because they were calm. It was like newscasters from like the 50s and 60s. All right, so what you want to do here is you're going to match the ball. No, not that way. And no break in the calm. Like it was like, did you guys get like sedated, wake up, and then just jump up and play? Like you didn't even like scrub your face. You're like, just go.
Yeah.
What you're going to want to do here is hack into this system and put this in place. No, not there. No, it's the other side of the desk. No, it's my right, your left. Your right. Okay.
Yeah. So it's definitely that that like we experienced this again, like I mentioned in Keep Talking Nobody Explodes. It's like really that communication aspect, knowing like how the other person's mind works. And it's like, okay, there's a triangle with 3 smaller circles inside the triangle. And it's like, and being able to visualize what that means and like, all that jazz. Overall, I agree with you, Travis. I think It Takes Two is still pretty much the pinnacle of like these kind of asymmetrical co-op games. But this one honestly is, other than how short it is, this is pretty high up there in the actual gameplay.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's just, again, if they had some kind of randomized mission mode or something like that, I think that would be to its benefit to help with the replayability. But for $20, it's still a really good experience. So I'm looking forward to trying it out at some point.
Yeah, as a $20 game, totally great. I could see if it were popular enough to get some kind of a sequel to it or an expansion on it, that would be great. And if they do that, I think you do add in some of the randomizing to it and more content just to make it more replayable.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually you'd run out because puzzles, you can only have so many puzzles in your game. But if you can mix up what puzzles are where and sort of orders that you do things in, then you could definitely get some really interesting stuff going on there. So
yeah,
I'm with you.
All right. I think we've covered just about everything we can think of on this. So everyone, if you like what you've heard and like to help us out, you can give us a review over on Apple Podcast. You can follow my Twitch and or YouTube channels for the live recordings Sunday nights starting at 9:15 Eastern time. It's when we start up our tech check, pre-show, and everything like that. Or you can become one of our patrons at patreon.com/ptgcast. And I'd like to mention Stephanie Hurst, one of our board members. Thank you very much for supporting us. We really do appreciate it each month. If you'd like to contact us, you can with our email, parttimegamers.cast@gmail.com. Or you can join our Discord channel as well. Everyone, thank you for listening. Please join us next week for our discussion of Bakura with Carter Johnson. I vaguely remembered her and Scott playing it for a little while, and this was the theme. So I've been trying to get her on the show. Let me rephrase that. I've been wanting to get her on the show to talk about this for a little while now. I'm glad that it kind of happened over the TMS Vegas, so we actually had someone in person speak with her. Thank you very much, September, for doing that. I really do appreciate it. So, we're going to be talking about Bakura with Carter Johnson next week. I'm Sean. You can find this show, the rest of my work, links to my socials, including our Discord channel, my Twitch and the YouTube channels, and the Apple Podcast listing using the link bit.ly/CI Productions. Or if you're in our Twitch chat, you can do !PTG links. It'll give you all the links to our sites as well. You can find Ember's work at 9of12.com, NINEOF, or NINEOF12.com. Second guessed myself first, like halfway through there for whatever reason. Theo, where can people find you around the internet? That's legal. And safe for work, preferably.
Well, nowhere, just sitting in the corner. No, just so Rabbit and Red Radio is going to start up again next week, and I've had like 3 things I've been trying to get off the ground, but I've kind of started from scratch now that I have a life again. And we kind of talked offline about wanting to actually enjoy living as opposed to working and crying all the time. Sometimes both at once. So more on that hopefully by next week's show. But Rabbit and Red is going to kick off Thursday night Eastern time about 7:30. So it'll be me and my co-host producer Mike, and we'll basically be kind of starting off again, but a lot of it's going to be getting into like the best horror movies we've seen this year. So it'll be nice. It'll be cool. It'll be 4 hours. So
jeez, nice,
excellent.
Yeah, indeed.
All right, Travis, where can people find you?
You can find me at TVsTravis.com for anything that I do.
Sorry, bring it a little bit to your left. There you go.
Haha.
I'm assuming Amy got that for you.
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, if you look right up there, I have a puppet up here that I made like probably, oh geez, I think I was like 14 when I made that. Yeah.
This turned out better than I could have hoped. I did pick up some wooden dowels to make little arm rods for him.
Nice.
Yeah, I had to be one of the cool kids and get in on this too. Here's my puppet.
There you go.
$300 up right. This thing used to sit by the window in our apartment, and I used to sit there and get up and go to work, and the light would hit it. I almost threw this thing 3 times, thinking it was a damn intruder.
Oh yeah, no, I'd definitely would have hit that with a bat or something if that was.
And it's like, I would have like put it on your nightstand right in front of you, so that when you wake up, that's the first thing you see. And like film the whole scenario just to see what would happen.
And I live, me and my girlfriend, we have 2 cats to begin with. So when we're asleep, we're in constant fear as it is.
Yeah. I mean, my theory is cats are secretly trying to kill us. They're just really bad at it. Oh,
And they're telepathic.
well, that too. Yeah.
I believe that. I can't help but to think. Yeah, okay. You may think I might need a foil hat on my head, but I ran out of foil. But having said that, you look at cats and kind of like their demeanor, especially towards each other.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem entirely inaccurate.
No, not at all.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Until next time, we are the Part-Time Gamers clocking out.